All right, guys. So today what we're going to do is we're going to install the Speedin Engineering 987 induction system.
And here's a quick teaser and some of the CFD engineering and testing that we've done on this car for the last 8 years with this system.
So first, let me go over all the parts. So here's what you're going to need is this is what's going to come in the kit. And you have this here is the intake scoop on the driver's side. This is the optional part. This is a matching scoop for the passenger side. You do or don't need this. This is more of a just going for style, so your left and right matches, but this is an optional accessory. This is the lower part of the box where it mounts to the body. I'll show you that later. This is the upper part that mounts onto the box, the lid, the Cayman filter, the pre-filter, which is a hydrophobic filter that goes over top of this Cayman filter. And last but not least, this is the intake pipe itself. This end with the clips is designed to mount to the factory MAF, and this end is going to be the filter. Now, let's talk through a little bit about that factory MAF. It's going to be a lot easier to show you now out of the car than when we're in the car. So, for demonstration purposes, ta-da, factory MAF. This side here, the little clips, when you're in the car, it's going to basically pop right in. You're going to transfer the O-ring that's on here into this lip right here. You can see the O-ring's already installed. Sometimes you need a little bit of lube to kind of help slide things through there, but it's designed such it's not going to be a problem. So hopefully for yours, you'll see it should just pop right in. And then you clip. All right, so step one in a 987 intake is removing the intake box. Now here's where you have to kind of face a big question. If you want to save the factory box without damaging it or cutting it in any way, you have to drop the engine. That's the biggest annoyance of the 987 chassis is that intake box is too large to come out without pulling the engine. Now, if you don't want to keep the factory box, then you can go ahead and start cutting that up and take it out in pieces. There's a few different examples on the internet already out there. If you go to Planet 9 or some other forums, you'll see examples where people show how to cut to remove that box. And really, once you have this system in place, you're not going to want to go back to the factory box. So that's probably the easiest way to do it. However, if you're comfortable with dropping the engine or you're going to have an engine out procedure for something else, that will be the time to pull the factory box to get to this point. But this is the main step, I would say, and the hardest part of the entire job is getting that factory box out of the bay. So once you're to this point, this is just a factory box removed. That's the area where actually the air enters from the factory. Over here, we can see the mass airflow sensor and the factory elbow connected to the throttle body. You're going to retain these components, the system designed to clip perfectly onto the OEM mounting for the mass airflow sensor. With that being said, let's go ahead and start digging into it and put some components in place.
All right, so the first piece we're going to start with is the lower part of the intake box. Getting into place can be a little bit of Tetris, but generally what I found is the best way to do it is have the opening, the part that attached to the body, kind of facing towards a firewall. And you can see me doing it in this angle. And then you'll just sort of kind of get it started. Focus on the right where you have sort of the breather tubes and make sure you're clearing those. There's a little bit of flex there. If you want to remove those, it'll give you a lot more room. But again, showing here, you can do it with it. And it just sort of slides down. Just take your time. And once it gets through, pop, twist it. And then you're going to attach it to the 3 mounting points on the body, those 3 screw holes that are using the factory box. So go ahead and attach these here. And once that's in place, now we can start with the tube. This tube, as you see on this side right here, is designed to mount to the factory mass airflow sensor, utilizing kind of the factory mounting location and factory clips. And as we mentioned before, we have that O-ring. Remember that O-ring is transferred inside this tube, so make sure you have that for sealing. And then the filter, we're going to put that pre-filter on first before we do all this. Okay, so now let's go ahead and slide this in place. Hold these clips. They kind of like to move around and get snagged on things and just make things a little bit annoying. So kind of managing where those clips are at. You can see me here even getting caught on some things. Then just go ahead and start to wiggle it into place. What you want to take note of is as you're putting it into place, where those clips are lining up on the factory mass airflow sensor. So you want to make sure it's clocked correctly, that those clips engage with the factory mass airflow sensor. And then once you've attached both, then we can move on to the next step, which is the filter. And as you can see, again, I have that pre-filter on there. And then what you're going to do is take the kind of the excess of that filter sock and it kind of helps to tuck it into the front or pull it down. It just gives you a little bit more leeway when you're putting that upper lid of the box on. That way it's not getting pinched or snagged. And then when we're putting on that upper lid of the box, it's important to note that on the very front-facing side, there's these L-shaped locking tabs. And the way this is supposed to work is you're going to put the lid on slightly towards the back of the car and then slide it forward, and those tabs end up locking into the lower part of the box, so that lower part just locks in. And then after that, you just attach the 2 front screws, and this saves us the trouble of having to have 4 different screws on all the sides of the box. And as you know, the space in that firewall section is pretty tight, so it's best that we just don't have 2 screws sitting there in the front. So this just makes our life a whole lot easier getting this into place. Okay, so now that's the intake installed in the bay. You can see how it sits there nicely tucked to the side of the wall of the chassis here. Plenty of room in there to work with. Fits up there nicely to the factory mass airflow sensor, and you can see how those clips are engaged. Nice and tucked out of the way, plenty of clearance. Gives you actually more room in the engine bay than the factory. So stock elbow, stock throttle body. Now, if you have an aftermarket elbow or aftermarket throttle body, as long as it's designed to mount to where the factory MAF location is, which the majority are, you're good to go. Now, taking a look at this angle, see just how it integrates in the body of the car. So let's go on the outside now and check out the scoop. So inside the view of the scoop, we can see the box itself and the filter, kind of where it bolts in there. And I think what's to note here is when we talk about water drainage, the way it's shaped, it's designed such that the water will always come out. It always drains out of here. So even if you have water kind of flowing in here, some mist coming in from the side of the road, heavy rains, there's a sloped angle, it'll want to come out. All right, and on this car, it doesn't have the factory rubber kind of baffle in place. We do recommend running this as it's a good way to control water intrusion in the body. This is more of a track-oriented car, so they don't have it. If you do have that in place, what we recommend doing is taking some soapy water solution, kind of spraying the sides of this here. It'll just kind of help everything slide into place really easily as you're installing. But again, you can run with or without, totally up to you. So when we talk about installation, it's important on the installation angle. So we want to install with a pointing tip down. So as we start to insert into the side of the car, the pointing tip down. And as we push in, we rotate. So we kind of twist it towards the front as we're going in. And then as we push in far enough, you'll see it clips in place. So we're going to bring it in. I'm going to start to twist it towards the front. Now I'm getting to the point where it's contacting on the body. So I'm going to make the top clear, keep pushing. All right, cleared the top of the body line. And now I'm at the last stage. All I have to do now is push in and you'll hear a clip. All right, so there it is, that clip noise. That's all you need to hear. Now it's attached real firmly in the body. Kind of just give it a push all the way around just to make sure it's engaged. And you can see that thing is really well secured. It's not going anywhere. All right, and that's how easy it is to pop it into place. It's very similar on the passenger side as well. It's just your mounting up into the fan shroud, but generally I like this a lot more than the factory clips that always snap off and break. This utilizes the factory metal tabs located all around the edges and secures it in place really, really well. It's not going anywhere. And if you have to remove it in the future, here's a quick overview. You want to use these small, thin plastic pry tools and just kind of work your way down the side of the body, releasing those, and pop, out it comes. Easy as that. All right, now let's do a final walkthrough. Here's the scoop on the outside of the car, firmly attached, ready to rock, and pull the air in. Inside of the car, we have the intake box. Again, those 2 screws there for servicing the filter. Just take the screws out, pull the lid off, and you can swap filters easily. So now let's see how it sounds. And if you're interested in purchasing this, we have it for sale on our site at speedinengineering.com. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.